Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to at the very outset thank Dr. Bhimsara Pereira and the Council of the Nawalapitiya Clinical Society for inviting me over here. I am extremely happy and feel quite honored to be here this morning. I would like to thank Dr. Professor Dhammika Silva for that fascinating lecture, which was a lesson in anatomy, a fascinating journey into endometriosis, and of course, the narratives about life, which I thought was the most important, and how he went about with each slide. He seemed to be recognizing his patients from endometriosis, I think. Anyway, that was fascinating to me. Thank you, Dhammika. I quite enjoyed it. Well, he said, I don't want to go into places where I'm not supposed to. That's exactly what I'm going to do today. I am going to places where I am not supposed to. I am here, standing high above you, which to some of you might sound as if I'm in a pulpit of a cathedral, which is a Christian church, very big one, where the pastor usually speaks down to the congregation, a sermon as they call it, and they all listen like lambs or sheep, unable to question. It's not that. Please remember, I'm at a high stage because you can see me. There's nothing much to see except an old fossil. But of course, I have to be here, and I'm going to share with you a few life experiences which I've had. I have no intention of speaking on my specialty, which I told Bhimsara about, but I'm going to speak about something which has been close to my heart. It has virtually occupied the cusp of my aortic valve for nearly now 2 decades, and that is professionalism. Something where people tend to hide behind and not talk about, but I am quite fascinated by it. Having revolved around the sun for about 75 times now, I have acquired a little bit of moss and a few experiences which I'm going to share with you, because I feel that the time is right for us to tackle this phenomenon of professionalism. Now, someone said, I forget who, that we go through life with 3 names. The names our parents gave us, the name others give us, and the name we give ourselves. Well, the name our parents gave us, we had no choice. I have got a pretty long name, for which I don't make my parents feel that they are not wanted, but anyway, I'm saddled with a very long name. Some of you may be. The name others give us is very important. That's of course our reputation. And the name we give us is equally important, and that is our character. I tell the medical students whom I lecture to, and the first lecture comes from me now, again, about the story of the Chinese bamboo tree, where you plant the seed and forget about it. You don't even know where the seed is planted. But if you water it, nothing happens for about 4 years. In the 5th year, it comes to life and it grows at a fantastic speed. But underneath, for those 4 years, what has been happening is the root system has been established very firmly, and a super foundation is being laid for what is going to happen in the 5th year. This is what I tell the medical undergraduates in Colombo when they start, because during that 5 years they need to establish themselves unseen, unheard, and then of course in the 5th year when they pass out they need to blossom. Same applies after graduation. I'm sure there are a few medical officers here, so you need to start off there in year 1, as it were. When you become a consultant, you can blossom and bloom. So I have titled my lecture, medical graduate to medical professional. A long journey. People think they are the same, they are totally different. It's a very broad canyon or a very broad gulf which is tough to fill. Medical graduate, you just pass out. Medical professional, well, that's another cup of soup. That's another cup. So if you look broadly at the stages of a respected medical professional, this is what you see. You see the student, nothing much to talk about, just a bud, with a few drops of problems and looking quite plain, quite plain, nothing much to talk about. But of course, some students come to the Faculty of Medicine in a different way, and we put them and cut them down to size. That's what's supposed to be the rank those days, but of course, which evolved in the wrong way. Then we have the medical graduate who buds a little bit of beauty seen, but still not right. And then, of course, the respected medical practitioner, most of you consultants are, and the medical administrator and the people in administration, where you become a medical professional, and then through your work you become a respected medical professional in full bloom. That's what you want to see. That's what everyone wants to see. And then you come to my stage where you just wilt away. Maybe you have had a good time, maybe you have not had a good time, that depends. But of course, that's where I am, or I will be soon. So the question is medical professionalism. What is medical professionalism? Well, built closely into that is this word, is these two important words: professional excellence. Now, excellence is another word which does not seem to impinge or have an effect in for the present generation. I'm not talking of the seniors. It's the quality of being outstanding and being the very best. There is no halfway house. There is no 99%. It has to be 100%. So any medical professional, I think, the young medical graduates, remember, the house officers, medical officers, that you need to be the very best. You need to be meticulous, and you have seen a presentation where it was there at its best. But the important thing is you should have an inner satisfaction and contribute positively to others. This applies to all of us, consultants and us, where you become excellent only when you have inner satisfaction and you give it out. You contribute positively to others. In other words, you become a giver, not a taker. That is excellence. Only then would you say that person is excellent. So it's basically a giver. So achieving excellence is never easy. It's tough, I can tell you that. I have yet to achieve excellence. So it's a long walk. Now, if you talk of medical professionalism, there are many things written in books, WHO, pamphlets, and so on and so forth. I have no intention of going there. Basically, it's medical morality. In other words, it's made up of principles. What are these principles? This is right, that is wrong. This is good, that is bad. So basically, it's a conscience. So we don't need to have rules and regulations if we have a pure conscience. But we don't have, you or me, neither of us. So because of that, we tend to break the law. We don't know what right is and wrong is. Or we pretend we don't know about it and go about our business. So basically, it's the conscience. So conscience is so important. But of course, there's something very funny about it. Professional norms cannot be forced. You can't. It's not like giving an infusion or a bolus or nasogastric feeding. You just put professionalism into you and you expect it. No, that doesn't happen. It emerges. It emerges from the people, from the persons, as a response to the life you're leading, as a consultant, as a medical administrator, as a house officer, as a medical officer, as an intern. You are with people, and then it emerges under the circumstances, the environment. So in other words, it just happens as a response. So how you respond is so important, because that's how people will measure your professionalism. Now, who measures your professionalism? People with whom you interact and people whom you want to impress, rightfully, because you have to elevate your standard. So it will be the patients, your colleagues, support staff right down to the guy at the entrance, the security officer, other professionals in other specialties, other disciplines, architecture, accountancy, economics or whatever, and society in general. So you need to interact and impress. And in other words, you're a public figure. You're like a political figure. You are there and people are seeing you. So I ask you the question, are we true ambassadors of the medical profession? Sadly, it is not. For the last decade or so, it has been going down. It's going down, it's at the brink of disaster. Media and society have judged us wrong or judged us right. And we are struggling to maintain professionalism. We cannot hide behind that fact. Many like to hide behind, but if you go to society and take part in events in society, after a few drinks, the first question they'll ask you, what has happened to your profession, man? I went and did this, I saw so and so. I see, it's terrible. What are you doing about it? I mean, this is a chorus. It goes on and on, so that I almost got deaf. So we need not be, we can't be overly happy about what has happened to our profession. I think it's going down the tubes unless you, the senior consultants who are here, take it by the scruff of its neck, give it a good shake and say, listen, medical officers or interns or whoever who is studying under me, you need to wake up. This is not how it is done. This is the way it is done. So I think there's a huge responsibility on the part of the seniors to see that we don't go down the slope. That is very, very important. As I was saying, it's autosomal dominant. It's a genetic term. It has to go from generation to generation. We have passed it on, so I think it's time it went. So who is a professional? Here are professionals. One who has expected skill and competence. They are all professionals. They have got the skill, they have got the competence too. So where do we come into the picture? Well, ours is a little different. We need to have skills, right? But the skills are broad. I have classified it into 3 broad areas. We need to have hard skills, we need to have soft skills, and we need to have this thing called probity. Let's look at them one by one. Hard skills. These are skills which are specific, teachable, and can be defined and measured. Hard skills. When you graduate, you have hard skills, and after postgraduate, when you be on the consultant training, up to consultant, again hard skills. Teachable skills, environmental. These are all things which you learn. It's like baking a cake. The graduates, for example, or the people, they come from different types of flour, different types of butter, different types of icing sugar, mixed in different ways, and the cake in an oven at different temperatures, different faculties, different countries. It's done in a different way. But of course, ultimately, you end up with a basic cake. So you got all the skills, the hard skills are there, learn, that's it. Look at this. Nothing much to look at. That's what happens at graduation. When you graduate, this is what some may have progressed a little bit more, but others are a basic cake. So we need to add on something. We need to add on something soft, something nice, something for the world to see. So we go on to the next one. We put the icing on the cake. So when you put the icing on the cake, you get a different view. The personal attributes now come in. That's the icing on the cake, which makes it quite palatable and visually, certainly, very attractive. So the personal attributes that come in now as soft skills, as they call it, will enhance an individual's what? Interactions, attitudes, and the way they behave and conduct themselves in society, the social graces. So there comes the soft skills. So we got the cake, we got the icing now, and now we go on to the last one, which is probity, which are the candles which are lit on top of the cake. That's the one that radiates the light. That's the one that you blow off after saying happy birthday. So these 3 components are very important for any professional. Why is it important for very professional? Why is it important for you and for me? Because if you are in the medical profession, you need to definitely stand out. You have to stand out. I have said this over and over again. If 3 people are working and one is a medical professional and the other 2 are not medical professionals, sorry to be a little cocky, but you have to stand out. Society must say, that person is, I'm sure, belongs to the medical profession. You can. That's not very difficult, though you might think. Just think about it. So you must stand out. The medical professional must stand out. So, in other words, we have to acquire them. We have to acquire the hard skills, the soft skills, and of course this thing called, this entity called probity. Now, I have a formula to acquire the soft skills. Hard skills we've acquired, you'll be acquiring it throughout your life, and that is, it depends on you. And it is mostly an environmental thing, the facilities available. Soft skills, on the other hand, are a little bit genetic, a little bit, not too much, where we have the professional image which we have to project to society. We have to have skills with people. You are interacting with people. And then some basic etiquette to get about in society. So let's look at the professional image. Professional image too has different components. How you look. I'm not talking of beauties and handsome people. I don't think any country has such beautiful features as the Sri Lankans. This is the cradle of humanity. One person differs from another and each one is equally beautiful. A famous philosopher said that. So your looks are important. What I'm talking about is not your features as such, but the way you use your features. Now these are pre-pandemic SARS-CoV-2, pre-pandemic stuff, where the doctors were in white coats, but now of course it's gone to scrubs, and there was, whatever it is, you were supposed to be confident and in control. We have to be confident, very confident, and we have to be in control. Because the patients come to us, they all have ailments, they have problems, and you can't look as if you have no confidence and you're not in control. They won't have faith in you. So all the young people must acquire this confidence. Not to be cocky, that's quite different. It's to be confident of what you have, what you possess, because you possess a lot, and to be in control. The young people must also address themselves to personal hygiene. Cleanliness is next to godliness, they say. So everything, every aspect of what you project to your patient or your client or whoever or in society, you need to be smart, well-groomed always, and you need to have the areas where you come into touch with the patient or client absolutely flawless and beautiful. That is very important, because no one likes to go to a doctor who is not groomed. So this is a vital thing which I always tell the young doctors. The attire is equally important. What you wear is equally important because that adorns you. So you need to have your personal wardrobe, you need to have your professional wardrobe. They can't be mixed. Personal wardrobe is for your social functions, professional wardrobe is for your professional functions. And you need to be in an appropriate dress code, appropriate for the time of the day and the occasion, because you need to respect your host where you have gone, and you have to have respect for the institution from which you have come. I'm very particular about it. Not because you want to go for a fashion parade or something like that, but you will realize at the end of it that no one is talking about this aspect of it. Most of the medical students and the young graduates are not aware that this is a very important component of your life. Because you may be a house officer or intern medical officer, but you might have to attend this entire array of functions, medical functions. You may produce a paper. Your boss may be the president of a society or a college, and you may be invited to a banquet. He may be giving, you may be even asked to give an oration, invited for an oration. There are house officers who have given orations. You may be invited for inductions of colleges, academic sessions of colleges, official functions, cocktails for that matter. So you need to have your proper attire. Work attire is different from smart casual, is different from formal and lounge, and national, of course. So you have to pay meticulous care to all these functions, because there will be people from overseas, there will be people from the private sector who you might have to meet in order to get funds and sponsorships and so on. So it is very important wherever you are to be properly attired. That is very important, because that completes the professional. Then of course you may have both looks and attire, but if your body language is poor, there again something where the young medics fall apart. You have to have that poise, something. It should be in your ears, it should be in your eyes, it should be in your nose and the way you speak, to show that you are in control. That is a necessity for every medical professional. You have to have confidence in yourself. You know it, so flaunt it. This is the chance. Show it that you are cut above the rest. So these are 3 photographs taken from Indian stuff and 1 foreign, just to show you the confidence which they project themselves. So I like to see the young medical graduates confident. I like to see them a little more confident and grow as you come to SHO, registrar and senior registrar stage, so that by the time you become consultant, you are in complete control. That's so important. People skills. You need to have people skills, because we are always interacting with people. So basic people skills are important. Basic social etiquette. Pay a little attention to it. That's very important, because you realize it when you go overseas, especially to countries like the United Kingdom, which is an old school colonial place, and you interact with these top guys in the British scientific and medical world, and if you don't, Professor Dhammika will tell you that, and Bimsara will tell you, if you don't live up to their expectations, then they will tolerate you, but they won't give you that extra little 3rd percentile stuff to you, because they will consider you as coming from one of the colonies. We were from one of the colonies, but we are well above them. We are sometimes ahead of them when it comes to etiquette and manners, and we can even teach the modern Britisher. But the Britishers of about 10 or 15 years ago, the bosses, they were high class stuff, and they looked down on us as if, we have savages who have come down from trees and we'll be climbing up by 6 p.m. to get into our huts. So we have to assert ourselves. We had a challenge, but not now. So it's very important to have basic people skills. Basic people skills. I'm not talking of big, there's a whole lot of it, but I have no time. Simple thing as shaking a hand and saying I'm so and so. Simple thing. A proper grip. Not to squeeze so that the metacarpal joints will get dislocated and the lumbricals will squeeze out through the skin. Not that squeeze that will cause an orthopedic surgeon to come to your aid, but a proper grip, a proper firm grip, and not this fish hand grip where you grip the wrist and shake the shoulder joint rather than shaking the elbow joint with a firm wrist. So there's a way to even handshake. Just to give you a small thing, you might wonder what I'm talking about. When you go home, you'll realize what I'm talking about, because these are important. Even whom to introduce to whom, or whom not to introduce, and how to say it. Those are also very important. From the young person should never give the hand to an elderly or an older person, and a lady should never, a young man should never give the hand to a lady unless she gives it first. So there are some basic rules. You can violate it here and there, depending on the person, of course, but just to show you the importance of this social networking and teamwork. This is so important. No one talks about it in our profession. So I'm telling the young people, learn this, go to the internet, cruise the internet, but cruise a little bit into etiquette also occasionally, to see what I can acquire to professionally build myself. This is the bugbear. This is the problem. Communication. Our communication is pretty bad. Both the written and the spoken word. So we need to mind our language, whatever the language. So spelling, grammar and pronunciation is important. If you're going to do it, whatever the language, it's important. Most of you do it in English, I know, so you have to be doubly careful. For example, pronouncing, I just have 3 words, I'm not trying to be a British colonial relic, as it were. But I'm just trying to tell you how stupid we look if we go overseas and we say Edinburgh. It is not Edinburgh, it is not Edinburgh, it is Edinburgh. Simple thing. It's Edinburgh. It's not October, as people say, because they say it October on the same lines they say October. It's not October, it's October. Similarly, the other two, C-A-R-E-E-R is career. C-A-R-R-I-E-R is carrier. The carrier of good news, the carrier of an autosomal recessive condition, the carrier of anything. So you see, these are the subtle differences which matter. When you speak at some overseas or international conference, I'm talking the young people. You go sometimes, we have got enough interns and enough young people whom we have sent abroad overseas for conferences, and we train them on everything, every aspect, so that when they go there, they impress the foreigners. So let's start off at home and pay a little bit of attention to pronunciation, because that is important. Well, in the written word, we have spell checks. Oh, be careful with spell checks. I have got stories and stories which I can recite to you till the cows come home. For example, I'll just give you one. When I was the dean, I had a secretary who couldn't draft a single letter. She was only to say whether someone was at the door or someone was, when should we chase out someone. So one day I told her, please draft this letter, and I drafted it and gave it to her, saying, Dr. So-and-so in our department has been replaced by so-and-so in the Board of Study in Anatomy, addressed to Professor Jayasekara, obstetrician and gynecologist, when he was the PGIM chair. Lo and behold, I gave it and I went for lunch, and I came back in the afternoon and she piled up the letters for me, and this letter was right on top, and I was just about to sign it, and I just, golden rule came back, never sign a letter, whoever gives it without reading it. Dear Professor Jayasekara, may I nominate Dr. D.J. Anthony in place of Dr. Kumaradas for a post as a member of the Board of Study in Anatomy. Any incontinence involved is regretted. Now what I wanted was inconvenience. So she went and typed incontinence. And she went into the spell check. Incontinence is there in the spell check. So that's what we get. If I sent that to Jayanta, he would have done I don't know, not a laparoscopy, he would have done a hysterectomy on me. So these are the type of things you shouldn't do. There are more stories to tell, but I cannot explain it, there's no time. So don't depend on the spell check totally, because that is part of professionalism. Clinical notes and diagnosis cards are sometimes hilarious. You have to, I think the consultants have a time of their life getting someone with good writing to write it properly and not check it. They don't have the time to check the diagnosis cards and clinical notes, but it is hilarious. So we have to be very, very careful on this, because these go far away, far and wide, across oceans sometimes. Unless it's digitalized and nicely done, there are things. These are not made up, these are all things which have happened. Here are some of these diagnosis cards. This was humorous, all right, you know. They have got the ends messed up, you know. It was a prosthetic lens implant. Sigmoid colonia was resected, nothing to do with Ranjan, who is in Australia and comes on. But these are the type of things which come in. Anal spinster repaired. That's what I thought was a good one. Subpubic angel restored in orthopedics. Wow, that's fantastic, I thought. White bow needle used, may have gone for a hunt for wild boar, I think. I mean, these are in cards. But this took the cake from a ENT clinic. So this is a scream, you know. I mean, if you send anything like this, I think, then of course I was, being a Catholic Christian, I was quite happy about this. And well, I was trying to aspire to be the next Pope. So hangologies, capabilities and practices and strategy. It changed the entire world. It added another dimension to etiquette, another whole new dimension with the internet etiquette that we call netiquette. The rules of conduct for respectful and appropriate communication on the internet. That is very important because we have a new world out there. There's increased knowledge, digital applications, internet browsing, you do that. Emails, where's the respect and courtesy in emails? I don't know how you consultants get emails from the lower medical officers and so on. A few of my consultant students in Colombo have shown me a few emails and said, "Sir, look at this. Is there any respect in these emails? See how they address us." It's either through ignorance, I think, most of the time. But I think respect, courtesy and manners even should be extended to SMSs, short messaging systems. I mean, they say, "I love you" by saying ILY. I mean, what's the thrill in that? I mean, GN. I wonder what GN was. Someone said, "It's good night," My word, what does this world come to? So, I mean, come on, let's wake up a little bit and be a little more human. I think that's in order. We take part in Zooms, meetings and teachings, Skypes, webinars and so on. So, I mean, punctuality is very important. At the same time, respect to the other participants and good manners is all important. So I need to bring this out and sensitize the younger folk that these are important, so that by the time you come to the level of your senior people who are seated in front here, you will be there. So I am telling you, no one will tell you. I don't think anyone will ever tell you, ever. So you will remember this morning in Nawalapitiya that an old crony came here and said all these things, but I think he had something in it. I am going to tell you whether you like it or not, my dear young medical professionals, that this is how you have to behave. Another thing that has frightened me, as it were, is these professional events. When it comes to professional events, you are invited sometimes to take part in conferences, academic sessions, maybe Sri Lanka or overseas. You may be asked to give a plenary lecture or an oration, make a presentation, make a poster presentation, give a welcome speech, a vote of thanks, or be the compeer, as you all did here. AI is fine, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, oh, that's fine. Of course, it destroys your originality. That's what it does. Never give your children, please don't give your children ChatGPT. It's ruination, because it's your originality and your creativity is destroyed. AI is good for technology. Even medical technology, it has to be used properly, because this is all from a pool of data fed in by a whole group of people, and the data comes in. It may be irrelevant to our country totally sometimes. So AI is fine, but at the same time it's important for certain things. I'll tell you why. You may be a candidate for a selection panel. You may be going for a post in the university, or you may be asked to prepare a curriculum vitae, as we call it, a CV. Get help. That's all I'm asking you. Get help. You don't know everything. I don't know everything. So get hold of a consultant, a person who is in the higher ranks, can say, "Sir, I'm making a poster presentation, or I'm making this research, I'm reading this research paper at this conference. Tell me how I should do it. Tell me how I should write it. Tell me how I should go about it and read it. Tell me how I'm going to handle difficult people from the audience. How do I preempt questions which are coming, so that I can very boldly and professionally answer it without batting an eyelid." Ask. If you're making a speech and you have to present it, or a vote of thanks, ask someone. Ask. Go to the internet, ask someone. If you can't, ask me. Get my number from Dr. Bimsara. I'm there anytime to help you. Ask someone. If there's anyone better, go to someone better. So this is something which we don't do because we are too cocky. We think we know everything, but we don't know. You don't know, I don't know. So let's ask people, and then that's how you improve in life. So when we have hard skills and soft skills, fine. We use hard power. We have got hard skills. There are some people who use hard power. And there are subordinates who are causing problems, house officers or medical officers, they use hard power. But if you have soft skills, you can turn get a person to shed enough of tears with 3 sentences without shouting and screaming at that person. So those are skills, soft skills, where you can let the patient know you have done something wrong, regret it, with a few words. Those are the values of soft skills. Hard skills is fine, throwing a tantrum, throwing a forceps in the operating theatre, or screaming at someone. That anyone can do. But the professional will not do that. Professional will use soft power, few words, and you'll be reduced to tears. So hard skills and soft skills are important. And lastly, of course, we have probity. This is what? What is probity? Quality of having strong moral principles. Easier said than done. That's genetic. That's in the genes. That comes from bottom. A few can be acquired, but most come from the bottom. That's from your pedigree. If my mother was an onion and my father was a garlic, will I smell like a rose? Out of the question. So it's there or it's not there. But environmentally, you can acquire. If you're smart enough, if you're talented enough, you can acquire it. And you wouldn't know. Even if you had rotten genes, you still have got a good cover. So decent, kind, honest people, that's what the professionals need. Young, dear medical officers, that's what we need. We have no space to wear that cap, the non-graduation cap of arrogance, conceit, arrogance and pride. These are the three big sins that happen throughout our careers. Even when I come to my age, it's still there. So don't try to avoid this, because there is no necessity. Because humility and simplicity, I think, are the key words and the passwords to a great life. Once a pathologist said, all the things one does when no one is watching is the important thing. That's professionalism. All the things one does when no one is watching. So in other words, your personal integrity comes first. That's number one. So work on these things, dear young medical graduates, because you got time, you can acquire it, and you can improve. So if you look at the career of a young person, maybe a medical officer or house officer, now and later, I would always talk of this junior medical graduate. You need to be what is called a fetal leader, a baby leader. You start now. There are interns in this audience. Are there at least one or two? Yes, yeah, you all are the fetal leaders. You need to know institutional professionalism. I am focusing it on you. You need to learn to command respect and have a positive attitude. Punctuality and discipline have to be there. Do you all have staff meetings in your wards with duty allocations every day? Do you monitor everything? Your discharges, your transfers, the people whom you send for surgery are in a long line on trolleys outside? Occasional nurse sent there to see whether the patient is dead or alive or starving from the previous day and the surgery list has been postponed. Do you? How about radiology and physiotherapy? Patients will go, have you lost touch completely after you refer? Or do you send someone there just to find out? That's up to you. That's professionalism. Do you maintain your wards, washrooms, clean and tidy? That's part of you. I'm just giving you a few things that you should do. Do you support your consultant? Do you come 10 minutes after him or half an hour after him, as it happens sometimes in Colombo? You should have gone to Professor Sharifdeen's ward rounds. You would have learned a thing or two. That man taught people. They hated him at that time, but love him now for what they inculcated in people. So, do you carry out all the instructions of the consultant, or do you do what you want? How about commitment to patient care, like postponed surgeries and other appointments? Do you attend to them? Visiting hour, do you run off to the quarters and hide there instead of meeting the kith and kin and discussing the cases? How about answering telephone calls? Do you abscond, hide behind the nurses and say that I'm not there? And then I have experienced it myself. Win the hearts and minds of your consultants, your colleagues, your fellow house officers and medical officers, and the staff above you and below you. Below you is more important. These are little traits of professionalism which if you can now start acquiring by the time you come to the stage of the seniors, you will be there. So you can start at the medical officer, at the house officer, the registrars, whom I am told are not there here, consultants, the medical directors, and then of course the pyramid goes up. And as it goes up, our responsibility also increases. Those of the consultants, the medical director, and people like us who are in the suburbs of life. Our mentoring and role modeling becomes very important. So we need to mentor these people. We need to be examples to these people. And we need to lend a helping hand to these people. That is the basis of professionalism, to be able to give it all. So I would like to request my fellow consultants and my fellow professionals to try and evolve a mentoring system where you can look after your juniors in a professional way, so that they will always be there and they will know what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing. In the private sector recruitment, I got 3 sons, all of whom are in the private sector. And their hard skills and soft skills and their probity was playing an important role. But the most important aspect was the talent. 70% of the jobs are given in the private sector for talent. Skills maybe about 30%, but they want talent. They want that thinker. They want that innovative guy. They want that person who can move with people and bring down the roof, bring down an entire building in 5 minutes, convince a client that he's selling sand to an Arab. You should be able to do that. Very important. So that is talent. That again is genetic, but it can be acquired. So we medical graduates must develop talent. We mustn't be in just boxes. So professionalism is enhanced by this fire of talent, which you have, which is untapped resource. You have talent. Every one of us have got some talent. So use it. So having hard skills, probity, soft skills, talent, perfect. Is that all? Is that enough for you and I to be a dignified medical professional? So what are you and me? Well, according to a philosopher, a scientist, a psychiatrist, we are all like stained glass windows. You've seen stained glass windows in cathedrals and old churches. You go inside on a nice sunny day like today, and this is what you see from inside. Stained glass, beautiful, fantastic. It's got the light coming in and it's illuminated. But what happens at night? This is what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said. But when darkness sets in, our true beauty is revealed only if there's a light from within. So you can stand out in the night. Unless there's a light, that stained glass is of no use, because it depended so much on the sun. So what is this light from within? We have to have it. We all have it to different degrees. But I want to just sensitize you and stress a little more and say, this light is important. This light is important. Whoever you might be, it is important. This is the light. Because spirituality is an eternal light which streams rays of practical guidance upon us. Everyone can agree on that, or most can agree on that. So your probity and all these characters come from there. They come from there. You don't have some form of spirituality, even if you are worshipping a mango tree, it doesn't matter, some form of having something, a target, a beacon which you follow, that is important. But in Sri Lanka, in general, I have noticed, and in most of the Asian countries, spirituality is practiced in a different way. They don't give much importance to the true spirituality. What they practice is this rituality. That is, I can't talk of other religions, I can only talk of Christianity. We go on Sundays to church, and we are very holy for that 1.5 to 2 hours. You should even see me kneeling down and saying my prayers. How about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday? Oh, you've forgotten it all. We behave like as if we are monsters sometimes. We have forgotten our spiritual values, and those days we behave as if nothing matters, only you are the demigod, we are the demigods, we are the high and almighty. That's not right. I always tell people who work in the institutions which I administer to, those institutions are your temples. Those are your covils, those are your temples, those are your mosques. There are enough things you can do in a hospital where you don't have to cite any one of these institutions. That you will never get, ever, a chance like this. Not even the clergy will get a chance to practice this true spirituality as much as a person in the medical profession. So if you true to yourself practice spirituality in your workplace, I think I'm not asking you not to go to these places. I do go. But I'm saying you that is enough. More than enough for you to find your eternal whatever. For us, heaven. So this is our spiritual light, and it is a perfect finish to all our acquired attributes. That's what you young medical professionals, would-be medical professionals should aspire for. Your acquired attributes. So you'll be really the people who will be radiating light. Be that flower. Rise above the world of craving. Remain unaffected by the material world. This is a fascinating flower. Drop of water, rain, anything from the murky mud, it emerges, and then it stands about 6 to 9 inches above the water level, well above the rest. You can pour sewage on it, it just gets washed off because of the oily film. So let's polish our oily film. That's the thing that is most important. So ladies and gentlemen, I think I have said enough. I've gone to places which I shouldn't go, like what he just told us, our chief guest, and I rightly behave myself, I hope. But all I can tell you is my fervent hope and my plea is that the seniors will guide the juniors to become professionals, and the juniors will like sponges, bleed these seniors and consultants and acquire from them what you need, so that in 5 to 6 years you will be first class medical professionals who are respected by society, where they will even virtually kneel down, remove their coats like Walter Raleigh, lay it for you to walk over. So with that I would conclude, but before I do so, I would wish that your careers will be fruitful, rewarding, and spiritually blessed above all. May all of us, medical professionals, you, me, and each one of us, be guided to perform our duties and serve this wonderful country, Sri Lanka. Thank you all very much for your patient hearing.